the middle of Loma stands the statue of the Good Samaritan. Robbers attack, eat, and leave a traveling man half dead. A priest and a teacher, upon seeing him, pass to the other side of the road. A Samaritan, an outcast of society, ironically stops, has compassion, and helps, takes care of his medical needs, and takes him to an inn and pays for his full recovery. After telling the story, Jesus asks, "Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" To be a neighbor to one afflicted individual, to transform one person's life, to understand and engage, are goals written on our institution and in the heart of our class.
On behalf of the class of 2010, it's an honor to introduce you to the stories of my classmates. Over this past summer, many of our classmates traveled around the world on mission trips to serve in situations of great need. While they were there, they witnessed firsthand Good Samaritans in action. They also watched and assisted as lives were transformed before their very own eyes. We would like to share a few of those stories with you. We'd like to invite you to be a part of our family, part of our community, part of the vision that's grown to be a part of the heart of our class. So come with us now as we visit Papua New Guinea, Zambia, Cameroon, and with a final stop in Haiti.
Between my first and second year of medical school, Jason and I, and 3 of my other classmates, had the opportunity to travel all the way over to Papua New Guinea to Porgera Hospital. It was suffering from quite a lack of supplies, especially gloves and sutures. Dr. Nadal, Dr. Granada, and Dr. Hiroglin were the only 3 doctors for that entire region of the country, and some of the patients had to walk an entire day just to get to the hospital. They were superb surgeons and great teachers and taught us how to suture, how to drill, and let us do that. Let us assist them on cases, from ENT cases to ortho cases. And I think everyone even had the chance to deliver their first baby as well.
As I was traveling to Papua New Guinea, I really didn't know what to expect. I had heard rumors of it being a dangerous place where people eat one another. But I soon found that at least a lot of my conceptions were indeed misconceptions. Even the most stern-looking men with the largest bush knives would almost invariably return a smile or try to initiate a conversation, and some would even come try and hold my hand. So all in all, I found the people of Papua New Guinea to be quite affectionate. But it's also true that they do quite a bit of harm to one another. They use their bush knives as a way to seek revenge so that they can obtain justice. Because of this, Porgera Hospital sees a lot of trauma, some of which is quite severe.
Every morning, before going to the OR, we would head over to the general ward and round with the doctors as well. I remember the very first time, about a week in, that I saw this lady with a bandage on her foot and a smile on her face. Her husband had paid quite a bit of money to her father in order to marry her. Yet when he got home, he was abusive. It became so much for her, too much pain and emotional problems, that she ended up fleeing and running back home to live with her family. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks before we saw her in the hospital, her husband had run into her in the local marketplace, and upon seeing her, he was so mad that she would flee from him that he pulled out his machete and began to attack her. Not only did he cut through almost every single muscle and tendon in her left forearm, but he put a huge gash in her foot and also took off almost the entire backside of her ankle. I was absolutely just astounded and horrified when I saw her injuries for the first time. In fact, her ankle joint was so bad that you could see it from across the room. After that first week, we took her to the OR quite a bit to debride her ankle, trying to take off all the dead tissue, hoping that her living tissue that she still had could regrow. Every morning when we came to the general ward to see her, I remember even though she was going through so much pain and suffering, that she would just smile every time and was so optimistic. In fact, her optimism was so encouraging that we just couldn't help but rally behind her in her situation. We began to pray with her in the mornings every time we'd round, and also we even come back at night often just to pray with her as well, that the Lord might heal her.
When I think about PNG, I think of the faces of the kids that looked so inquisitively at me, or those that couldn't hold back their smiles. I remember the striking colors of the cultural dances, the stern looks, the suspicious frowns, and the polite smiles. I also remember all of those faces of the patients, the malnourished, the severely dehydrated, and the wounded. Then I think of all the dedicated hospital workers who work with limited resources day after day to provide care to people who would otherwise receive none. I think of the physicians who have given years of their lives to serving people, often with little reward. When I think of these people and reflect on my time in PNG, I can't help but be inspired by the work being done at Porgera Hospital, which really is the face of healthcare for an entire province. I'm reminded of the fact that seemingly insignificant supplies in the hands of dedicated people like these can make a huge difference in the healthcare of an otherwise unserved population.
This summer, Heidi and I had the privilege to visit Zambia. After a 26-hour flight and 10-hour bus ride, we're absolutely thrilled to reach Mwami Hospital. Mwami is a 200-bed hospital that was built about 80 years ago. There are 2 doctors currently working there, Dr. Ang, who's been there for about 12 years, and Dr. Paducci, who's been there for a year. Mwami Hospital is a Christian-based institution that is focused on caring and reaching out for the people of Zambia. One Saturday around midnight, Heidi and I were called to the hospital. We were going to help with delivering a baby. When we got there though, we were a little bit disappointed because the baby had already been born. But what struck us was that the baby was in the corner under a broken heating lamp, shivering so hard he could barely cry. So naturally, Heidi and I walked over to the baby to help keep him warm. The nurse told us, don't touch the baby unless you put some gloves on. So we put some gloves on and asked the nurse why. The nurse said the mother's HIV positive, and so therefore the boy could possibly have the dreaded disease. The realization that this scenario was not limited to this one boy, but that it was playing over and over again, left us feeling almost helpless and torn up inside.
One thing that really impressed me about Mwami Hospital was the way that they were reaching out to impact their community. What the hospital did was it would take a representative from the village and it would teach them a skill, a trade, something that they could use. It would then give them a microloan of about $50 US so that they could buy the most basic tools and materials that they could use to start a business. Well, the representative would then go back to his village and train everyone else the same skills that he had learned. Well, together as a community, the village would make different products, and when they had made enough, they went to the local market and sold these things to make a profit. Well, part of the profit would go back to repaying the hospital loan, part of it would go to buying more tools to expand their business, and part of it went back to actually helping support their own village. Well, one day, Dwayne and I were privileged enough to go visit one of these villages that had been trained in how to make metal watering cans. Well, when we got to this village, the people were so excited to see us. They welcomed us with smiles and open arms. They quickly sat us down and lined up all of their metal watering cans out in front of us. And as they went through each step of the process and showed us how that they had made these watering cans, I could just see the happiness on the face of showing us this new skill that they had and this new knowledge that they had never had before. I just felt so blessed to be able to see how one hospital could make such a huge difference in our community.